Hi, my name is Deb from DG Reads, and it's time to talk about continuing and finishing series. With the final 2024 Final Book Support Group readathon happening this month, it has me thinking about my series continuation problem and my series finishing problem. All of the things this readathon was really created by Steph at Steph Loves for combating. And I know I'm not the only person out there who doesn't make enough of a priority of finishing series and continuing series. So to hold myself a little bit more accountable, I decided to kind of create a list of what my priorities are in terms of finishing off series. Will I get to all of these in the space of a week-long readathon? Absolutely not, but it gives me kind of a priority list to look at when I need to finish series. This is a goal that I have for myself every month to do at least a couple continuations, and that's going to be a goal continuing on into 2025 for sure. So this is giving me something to reference back, put things in a little bit of order, and see what I have. As I was putting together this list, I kept thinking of more and more things to add to it. So at some point I just had to cut myself off and understand that this is not a comprehensive list of series I need to be working on, but they are the ones kind of at the forefront of my mind and what I want to get to. So in terms of organizing things, I thought I would put it in the order of what I'm the closest to finishing. As far as I'm aware, what are the final books in the series that I'm working on, and start there, because that really is the emphasis in the Final Book Support Group, is getting to that final book. So in no particular order within this category, I am going to be starting with Midnight Showing by Megan Shepherd. This is the second book following Malice House in what I believe to be just a duology. I don't, as far as I know of any plans to have a third book. I really enjoyed Malice House. This is a gifted copy I received from Hyperion Avenue, and when the publisher offered this to me, I had not read book one, but it was a high priority for me to get to after knowing several people that I trust really enjoyed it, and I was happy to accept the gifted copy. I should have already gotten to this one because I did finally read Malice House, and I loved Malice House. It's a blend of horror and fantasy, and I think that's something the author did really well in the first book, and I need to read this one. And then I have Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the final book in the Indian Lake trilogy. As I understand it, we're following our same main character, Jade, in this one. It sounds like it's been a few years since the last book ended, and she's coming back to Indian Lake with some unfinished business. And then I have The Excalibur Curse by Kirsten White, and this is the third and final book in the Camelot Rising trilogy. I read the first book when it came in a book box years ago and enjoyed it, and it took me forever to get to book two, and it took me a bit to settle back into book two, but once I got into it, I enjoyed that one a lot as well. It's, again, been far too long. I don't know if I'm going to remember enough to enjoy this one. I'm hopeful I do, but if not, then it'll be an easy DNF, and at least it'll be off my list. In this one, we're following Guinevere, who is part of the whole Knights of the Round Table story, and we're getting her perspective on everything. That's what I remember. Not a lot, but it is still one that I want to try to finish this series. And then I have one that I have no excuse for not getting to because it's teeny, and that is Binti the Night Masquerade by Nnedi Okorafor. And this is book 3 following Binti and Binti Home. It is so short that I have no excuse for not getting it in and finishing off this little trilogy. It is one that I've been enjoying. I like the second book more than the first book, and so I have high hopes for this one as well. This is sci-fi. We're taking a girl away from her village. She's going off to school, as I recall, and this involves space travel to get there. It's a really interesting look at different cultures blending together and so forth, so I need to continue and finish the trilogy. This next one, I have a little bit more cause for why I keep putting it off, and that is Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick. This is the third book in the Rook and Rose trilogy, and the reason it keeps getting pushed back is because it is rather large. I read the first book for this one. It was the group book for my trip to Italy with Becca at Becca in the Books, and we had a fun time discussing this in Italy, which was just really an enjoyable time because this does have Italian kind of origins to it, even though it is a fantasy in a fantasy world. I enjoyed it. Not everyone in the group did, so we had some good discussion about it, but I finally picked up the sequel and really enjoyed that as well, so I know I will love this one. It's just something that keeps getting put off, so I really need to pick it up. And the last thing I have in this category is a thriller, and it's Critical Point by S.L. Long. This is from an author that I met at one of my first author events that I went to after joining kind of the official book community with Bookstagram. And the concept of her series, which is basically a mathematician superpower type person, is something that made me immediately pick up the first book in the series. And I've enjoyed both books 1 and 2. I don't know exactly what the premise of this third one is. It says, explosions, conspiracies, and genetic alterations. Just another day for math genius mercenary Cass Russell. But as far as I'm aware, this is the final book that has come out in the series. I have no excuse for putting it off because these are super quick, bingeable reads, and I'm very excited to get to it. Now, the next kind of group I put together are books where I only have one book to be caught up. These are the final book in the sense of what is currently out, and therefore they'd be really easy just to read one and then consider myself fully caught up in a series. First one for this, I have Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. I own 2 copies of this book. I had it pre-ordered, and then Fairy Loot came out with this really stunning edition of this one and a special edition of the first book to go with it, Legendborn. I loved Legendborn. I binge read it. Eyeballs only in basically 24 hours, and they're not the smallest of books. So I've been nervous, I think, to pick up the second one under the thought that maybe I won't love it as much. I really kind of want to reread Legendborn and then read this one. And then I think we finally kind of maybe have a date next year, maybe, for the third book in the series. So I would like to be caught up so that I can get on the hype train for book 3. Next up, I have Creature of the Void, which is by Wind Raven. I was just gifted this for my birthday by Mel at Melanor Reads, and this is the sequel to Master of the Void. And I really fell in love with that book when I was reading it for SBFB09 as part of Cassidy at Covers with Cassidy's team, and had a fantastic time. And I've been stalking the author's Instagram ever since for updates. She's been very good about providing periodic updates on where we were at with this book, and it's just stunning, and I'm so excited to continue this series, get back with these characters I really enjoyed, and now that I have it in my hands, I will be excited to pick it up. Next up, I have Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the sequel to Powerless, and Powerless was such a fun read. It was not great literature by any means, but it had those Hunger Game binge read feels that I really loved way back when and really loved again in Powerless. I read the novella, the 1.5 in this series, Powerful. I liked it. I didn't love it quite as much as Powerless, and maybe that's made me a little more apprehensive about this one. I haven't heard that much about this one, but I'm sure once I get going on it, it's going to be an easy binge read to get caught up on this series. And then a series that I'm proud to say I'm essentially caught up with, but there is a book coming out this month in it, is Janet Ivanovich's Stephanie Plum series. The 31st main book in the series is coming out this month, and the title of that one is Now or Never, 31 on the Run. And this series is just fun, giggly, good time, brain off type of reading. The books are following a bounty hunter, Stephanie Plum, the 2 men that she's in love with. Love triangles don't generally work for me, but in this case, it's just good fun. She's not a great bounty hunter. Her sidekicks are even less great of bounty hunter assistants. It's a lot of over-the-top hijinks that you go in expecting a very formulaic type of time. I wouldn't suggest reading this series back to back to back, but at this point they come out each November essentially, and I immediately put them on hold at my library for the audiobook because they're just fun. So I can again continue to say that I'm up to date. And then the last one for this category is A Ghost of Caribou by Alice Henderson. I just finally read the second book in this series last month, and now there's just one more to be caught up on the series before the next book comes out, I think in March of next year, if I'm not mistaken. This is a series that follows biologist Alex Carter in different situations. The first book was following wolverines, the second one was set in Canada following polar bears, and this one is following caribou, hence A Ghost of Caribou. In this one, Alex is being sent in to investigate a possible sighting of mountain caribou, which are believed extinct, and knowing the series and the fact that it's a thriller, things go wrong. This is a series by an author who has a lot of extensive knowledge about research and biology and animals and preservation and all of these types of things. So there's always a lot of really interesting information in these books in addition to the more thrilling aspects of the story. My next category is a couple of series where I have two books that I'm really excited to get to that would help me finish a series. First up, I have The Traitor and the Trap by Ava Glass. This is a series. The first one was Alias Emma, and we're following a spy, a woman named Emma, who's going undercover, investigating, doing thrilling things. The first book was a fun binge read. I flew through it really quickly. They're not super long books either, which means this would be an easy series to get caught up with. I'm not sure if the third book here is a final book or not, but at least I'd be caught up. These are gifted copies I received from Bantam Books. And then I have a couple here that were gifted to me by Del Rey, which are a little bit bigger. I have The Battle Drum and The Ending Fire. And these are the two books following The Final Strife. I really enjoyed The Final Strife and have been meaning to get to these. I had it in mind to pick this up, The Battle Drum, if I had happened to land on the sound-related prompt for Spookopoly, but did not get there. So this now gets put on my potential November series continuation TBR. This is a series that is based on African and Arab mythology or history, and it is a lot of kind of politics and interesting characters and just a good time and an easy binge. And two that I don't own physically, but I do have the gifted audiobooks from Macmillan Audio, are the two final books in the Luminaries series by Susan Dennard. And I recently read the Luminaries and really enjoyed it more than I expected going in. It felt very typical YA fantasy with a bit of a romance potential there. It has some very dark elements. It was perfect for spooky season reading on the fantasy front, and I've been excited to go ahead and continue on with the series. And this was one that was really easy to kind of consume on audio, and therefore having the audiobooks for these is perfect to continue on, and two books will have me finishing off a trilogy. And then we have another series that I have no good excuse for not having finished, and that is two books in the Murderbot Diaries series. That is Fugitive Telemetry and System Collapse. I've seen System Collapse listed as a standalone tied to the series. I'm not entirely sure if they follow each other, but these books in general work pretty well as kind of standalones within the same world, and I really enjoy them. They are not long books, and again, they're ones I tend to put off till I'm in a readathon, but honestly, I enjoy them so much I need to get to them sooner rather than later. And then the last pair that I have for this category is Blood of Troy and Storm of Olympus by Claire M. Andrews, and these are the last two books in the Daughter of Sparta series. The first book of this, which was Daughter of Sparta, I believe, came in one of my Once Upon a Book Club box subscription deliveries, and I had a lot of fun with the first book and 100% plan to continue on. And now two more books have come out and I have not continued on. I'm going to have to refresh myself on the first book, but we've got interactions between the gods here, we've got humans, we had trials, we had all sorts of things that just had me really invested in book one, and I need to try to continue on. If I discover I can't remember enough to actually continue on, fine, take it off my list, but this has been been on my series I want to continue list for a while now, and I need to resolve that. And then to round things out, I did want to say I do sometimes continue series. So here's a few that I am actively continuing reading. The next book that I have in Throne of Glass is Empire of Storms. I initially started this series years ago, and I made it through the first 2 books, I think, and gave up. And then I kept hearing from people that you need to make it to book 3 and then you get more invested. And they were right. I restarted the series this year and read the short story collection first, and then have made it several books in, and I am really enjoying my time with the series now. So I can be one of the people who says, yes, I did get invested after a reread, and I am going to actually finish the series. I don't know if I'll do it by the end of the year, which was my original plan, because these books keep getting longer as the series goes, but I am actively making progress on it. And then one I know I've talked about a few times around here is Wheel of Time. And this, admittedly, I'm making good progress on because of the WheelOfTimeAlong that was created by Sandra at Got a Thing for Things, and I was invited to participate in the live shows partway through the series, and I've been having a lot of fun doing that. The series itself I have not been in love with, but we're down to our last book by Robert Jordan, which is Knife of Dreams, and then we start hitting the ones written by Brandon Sanderson, using, of course, Jordan's inspiration and storyline and all of that. But I am really excited to finish the series out and to know that I will have tackled and successfully finished such a big series. And then kind of a discussion on series continuation, kind of a series reread for me. We'll be starting the next series that the Catch Up Book Club is taking on, and that is Malice by John Gwynne. Now, this is the book club that was created by Becca at Becca in the Books, and she has kindly allowed me to participate in this as a co-host, and I am so looking forward to reading these books with a fantastic group of people. I will, of course, have her announcement video down below, which has the full schedule and dates and all the co-hosts and everything you need to know, so please check that out if you haven't already. But Malice is a book that I've already read, and I loved Malice. At the time, I fell in love with this, the characters, everything, and then I took too long before continuing the series, and my interest started to dip a little bit because I just started losing track of who was who. I didn't love the sequels as much as I did the first book, but I think that was on me and my choice and my pacing of reading them. Reading them every 2 months with the Catch Up Book Club, I have high hopes that I'm going to be much more invested. So the first 4 books are a reread for me, and then we're going to be going into a trilogy that is set in the same world as these that I have not read. So that's where the continuing a series part comes in. This is where the reread part comes in. But I did want to mention this one since this will be a priority for me for 2025 when it comes to series, because I need to, keep up and be part of the live shows. So that wraps up my series priority list and what I'm hoping to tackle in the very near future. Are there any here you would recommend that I prioritize for this month's Final Book Support Group? Are there any in here that are on your list of series you need to pick up or continue? Let me know all the things below. And if you've made it this far and you don't have anything to comment, give me an emoji that is a wheel for my longest series in progress, Wheel of Time. I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button below if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you're interested in more of my book content, more of my series continuation, more of my struggles with series continuation, and all of my bookish things. But for now, I'll leave you here. Get started on finding room in my TBR for all of these series continuations, and see you real soon in a new video.